You need to know the order of blood flow. After it leaves the heart, it goes through the aorta. The aorta's kind of big. Your pinky can sort of fit into the aorta. And then it moves into increasingly smaller vessels. So it goes into the arteries, the arterioles, and then into the capillaries, which we'll talk about this in a bit, but an individual capillary is the smallest of these vessels. And then as it returns, these vessels get increasingly bigger as you go into the venules, the veins, and then the vena cava. Okay, so know that path and know the order of the vessels after leaving the heart and then returning to the heart. In the chambers, or in the heart, there are four chambers. There are the atriums, excuse me, atrium, and then the ventricles. I think the plural of atrium is atria, I think. Um, Make sure you know where these are. They are not, this is our right atrium. This is our left atrium. Because, it's like it's left on you, but when you're looking at it, like if I look at my own heart, my left atrium is on my left side. All right, even though you're looking at me, it looks to be on your right side, but it's on my left side. I remember atrium like a fancy hotel. Like you go into a fancy hotel and the atrium is the part where this is all lit up. So the atrium, I always think of as being, oh, you have this big glass ceiling up high. And so the atrium is the top part, and then the ventricles are going to be the right ventricle here, and then the left ventricle here. So make sure you can identify them with, a simple diagram like that, or I'll show you a more complicated diagram that has other parts as well. Blood flows out of the left ventricle through the aorta, goes through the systemic circuit, and returns. Now it's depleted to the right atrium. Then it goes through the right ventricle, through the pulmonary artery, pulmonary like lungs, to the lungs, and returns to the left atrium through the pulmonary vein. I'll show you a more complicated figure that shows all these various parts, and I have a video that I want you to watch. Uh, but you need to know all these various things. Um, There are also four one-way valves in the heart. That's the pulmonary valve, the tricuspid valve, the aortic valve, and the mitral valve. And you can see where they are in the flow of the blood here in this diagram. I want you to know the basic flow that includes the four chambers and the major arteries or veins and these four one-way valves. Okay, the pulmonary valve goes to the pulmonary artery. This tricuspid valve goes from the right atrium into the right ventricle. The aortic valve goes from the left ventricle into the aorta, as you might expect. And then the mitral valve goes from the left atrium into the left ventricle. So make sure you know the basic way that blood flows through the body, the path that it goes from the aorta, arterioles, arteries to arterioles to capillaries, and then back again. And then also make sure you know how blood flows through the heart. So as blood flows through the systemic circuit, it experiences a continual drop in pressure. Remember, from the Poiseuille equation, there has to be a pressure differential. And so it experiences that drop in pressure. Um, the highest pressure is in the aorta. That's right after it leaves the heart, right? The heart pumps and it pushes all that blood into the aorta. And then the lowest is when it comes back, which is going to be in the vena cava. So very high pressure in the aorta, very low pressure in the vena cava. Poiseuille's law says that the pressure must be higher for our flow through longer systems. Remember, Q was pi r to the fourth delta P over 8 eta L. So what I'm saying there is that if L is big, that means that delta P must be big in order for Q to remain the same. And Q has to remain the same in this closed system, whether you're in the systemic circuit or in the pulmonary circuit. So the pulmonary circuit is a much, much shorter circuit, much shorter distance for us to travel. So that means that the pulmonary circuit will have a much less pressure. So the pulmonary circuit is much shorter than the systemic. So the pressure there should be less, and it is quite a lot less. All right, we will come back to this stuff a little bit later.